Hi class, and welcome to the video, Understanding the Quiz Project. This video will help you understand our next major assignment in the course, the quiz project. First of all, like before, everything that I'm going to show you comes from the assignments folder. If you click on that folder, you'll get to the folder for the assignment. And here we are. After you click on the folder, you can see the quiz project is the second link. So everything I'm going to show you, the instructions and the rubric, the link to submit are in that folder. Once you click on that assignment folder, you'll see the quiz project folder, as I said. And once you click on the quiz project folder, you'll be here. At the top, you'll see a link for the instructions that we're about to go over and the grading scale. And you'll also see a link for you to test what's called the Flesch-Kincaid reading levels. And that'll become clearer in just a moment when I explain it. Finally, you'll see the quiz project link to submit. First of all, the quiz project is worth 15% of your grade, and it's due on November 16th, Tuesday, November 16th. So let's go over what's the purpose of this assignment. Well, I know there are a lot of quizzes out there on the internet, but the purpose of this assignment is to put you through the paces so you know what it takes to design a quiz. And it's really not as easy as you think it might be. You're going to see after this exercise almost universally, students say, I didn't think it was that challenging to design a quiz. But more importantly, it also helps you recognize the hallmarks or the indicators of a good quiz when you find one on the internet. By going through the process of design, you'll learn what to look for in a good quiz. So your quiz must be at a second grade level or higher, so no preschool, kindergarten, or first grade quizzes. And that's to assure that the students that are taking it will be readers. It's not really developmentally appropriate to give a quiz to very young students. So even you early childhood people will be certified through second grade, so just do your quiz at a second grade level. Here's something I can't stress enough. Your quiz needs to be completely your own. I know there are a lot of quizzes out there, and sometimes people go out and they look for items that will go with their quiz and they use them verbatim, and then I have to say to them, I'm sorry that this isn't allowed, because I always find it. I use Safe Assign and I know how to find those things online. So don't do that. Just don't go out and look for items on the internet for your quiz. Just make them up in your head. I would rather have a poorer item that's all your own that you can improve upon than have you find an item on the internet and then have to go through the heartbreak of having to redo your assignment or worse, getting an F. The quiz should be aligned with a learning standard and a learning target. So one of the first things you're going to do is have to come up with a standard. And again, the standards are in the folder that's on the course site. And a learning target. Remember that a learning target has a target for success. So students will be able to count to 1 to 10 with 80% accuracy. The learning target at the end makes that a learning target. Now, there's some very specific instructions for the format of the questions. You need 10 multiple choice, 3 binary. Well, what do I mean by binary? Binary means 2. So binary means questions that have 2 answers. True, false is binary. Fact, opinion is binary. So 3 of those. 1 matching item with 4 or more premises, so 4 or more subparts. So 1 matching with 4 or 5 or 6 or 7, whatever subparts. 1 constructed response, and that can either be a short answer or an essay. Now this week we're studying selected response, so you're going to learn about the first 3, but I encourage you not to develop the constructed response because we'll talk about that type of quiz item next week, and you can add that in. So let's talk about what you need to do to include in your paper. The first thing you need to include is the grade level. What grade level will your quiz target? As I said, this should be grade 2 or up. The Flesch Kincaid reading level and readability analysis. This week you're learning more about that, but basically it's what grade level is good for how you've worded your quiz and whether your quiz is readable. And so you'll learn a lot more about that. Your grade level, your reading level should be plus or minus one grade level from your student's grade level that you're targeting. So let's say you're targeting third grade. Then your reading level should be somewhere between second grade and fourth grade. Any higher is going to be difficult for some students. Any lower, it's going to be not challenging enough. Reading ease should be 60% or greater, and again, don't worry about it if you haven't done that assignment. That'll become clearer after you do this week's assignment. You should also include an answer key, an answer to each item. Some students like to put this at the end as a separate paper, a separate page, and other students simply highlight the answers. A rationale for choosing the types of items that you selected based on best practices. The biggest mistake students make on this section is they'll write their own opinion, and that's not what I'm looking for. There's a section in your textbook that actually explains what kinds of topics and things, kinds of skills lend themselves better to essay or to true false or to multiple choice. So complex topics that require a lot of analysis probably lend themselves better to essay. And so review that textbook for when you would select each type of item, and then justify your choices in the rationale section with citations from the textbook. If you don't, then you'll probably lose points. A reflection needs to be included, and as you've done probably with your interview assignment, with some of the other assignments in your course, a reflection is a deep and meaningful reflection that includes some or all of the following: lessons learned from the assignment, things you'll take away for classroom practice, what surprised you, what challenged you, what you liked, and you may be able to think about more reflective questions. The point here is not just a conclusion. You don't just write, I went and I did this quiz and I enjoyed it, the end, because that's not a reflection, that's a conclusion. A reflection is you looking back and reflecting on the process so that you can solidify in your mind meaningfully the things that you will take forward. So just some strategies for success. You always start with a standard. The standard is your roadmap. So look through that folder, find a standard, write one or a couple of learning targets, and then decide how you would assess them. And remember, the rule is, as we've said before, standards and learning objectives or targets and your quiz items must all be aligned. So you can't have a standard that covers exponents in algebra and a learning target that covers exponents and then a quiz that covers dividends. You have to everything has to be aligned. I put a tip sheet in the folder that says these are the way you write quiz items. Please be sure to review that tip sheet. So there's a lot of instructions. For example, when you're doing your multiple choice, you alphabetize A, B, C, D. So you alphabetize your responses. If you are using multiple choice with dates, you order those from start to finish. And there are a lot of tips in there that if you don't use them, I'm going to highlight and say you need to see tip number whatever. You're going to have to go look it up anyway. Take your test. Sometimes you find errors by doing this. And then have peers, or this is even better, find a student or child that's the age that your test is intended for. And have that person read over your test and give you feedback. Sometimes they'll say, oh, I don't know what this word means, or this is confusing. And that's a really good way to clear your test up. And here's an important part. Do not wait until 11 o'clock the night before it's due, because creating a strong quiz or test takes time, concentration, and practice. You can see here, this is a grading scale for the project. Why don't I call this a rubric? Well, we're going to get into the difference between a grading scale and a rubric later in the course. But basically a rubric, if this were a rubric, it would have levels. So what would you get for 1 point? What would you get for 2 points? What would you get for 3 points? And under each of those levels, you would have a description of what your paper would be like for a 1 point level or a 2 point level. Here instead, we're just listing each section and saying how many points it's possibly worth. It doesn't say exactly what it looks like at each level. But that's a grading scale, and I encourage you to look through there to find out how to, just as a checklist, to make sure that you're doing everything correctly. Here's the second part of that grading scale. You can see test layout and looking at those tips. That's all factored in your grade. So if you have any questions, please, I'm happy to meet with people. I've been meeting with students. It's not a problem. Email me if you have any questions at all. I'm happy to help you out. And I'd rather do it before than after you submit because we can get a lot of things cleared up. InHowRunner@mercy.edu. Thanks, everybody.